Hey guys, welcome to Think Insurance. Today we're going to talk about endorsements to a homeowner's policy. If you guys haven't already subscribed to the channel, I would love it if you do. Thumbs up if you get really good value out of this. This video is part of a series where we talk about the entire home policy for coverage A, B, C, D, E, and F, and so forth. We're going to dive into some other recommendations after this video, but if you haven't started at the beginning of the series, I'm going to put the link below to start there. I would recommend starting there to go through each portion. It's very quick, but it gives you the most data and the most knowledge for your home policy. Also in that link, you can buy me a cup of coffee if you want to support the channel. Otherwise, let's dive into endorsements. The easiest way to reword endorsements is additional insurance or extra coverage. So typically a homeowner's policy is what we call an HO3 policy. And we've already gone through all the coverages, but if you notice when I talked about personal property, we talked about adding endorsements for jewelry and adding endorsements for computer equipment. All sorts of things. You can even add an endorsement for a boat that you have or a snowmobile or anything that can be insured under your home policy. We're going to dive into that a little bit further in this video, so hang tight. The most common endorsement is jewelry, and it's really simple to do. There's two ways that you can do this endorsement. You can either schedule each item individually, in which case you're probably going to have to get an appraisal. You're going to have to show value and get a very good description on the item that you're covering, because they don't just cover it if it's stolen. If you're on vacation, you're typically covered when it's lost. If you have what's called matching, and it's a set of earrings or a set of something and you lose one, they're going to replace both of them if they can't find the additional set. That's the first way to cover your jewelry. The second way is to do what I prefer to do, which is called a blanket coverage. And a blanket coverage does have limitations, so it's only for those that have items that are typically valued under $2,500 per item. And what that does is you can set an amount. We can say we want $25,000 additional blanket coverage on my jewelry, or I want $50,000 blanket coverage on my jewelry. You're going to have to ask the companies that you're working with what their limit is per item, because you may have a $50,000 blanket, but each item might cap out at $1,500, or more commonly it's $2,500 if you're usually doing a blanket coverage. The reason I recommend that one is because it's cheaper, it doesn't cost as much, and you don't have to constantly every few years get appraisals to make sure that that item didn't go up or down in value. The other part, which I personally added, is computer equipment and camera equipment. Because I do a little bit of a studio in my basement, I've got a couple $1,000s worth of camera equipment. And so I don't want to be stuck and lost if that happens. Because the insurance companies know that those can get really high in value, some cameras are $10,000 plus. And so they need to make sure that they're not just willy-nilly going to cover everyone in every situation. And that's a piece of it. Computers nowadays have gone way up in value. So typically if it's beyond a $2,500, your insurance company is going to want to have you endorse or add additional coverage for computers in the home. Some companies let you claim the number of computers. Other companies, and most commonly, they're going to just add a certain amount. Most commonly, you're going to do $5,000 just because that fits the perfect price range. But if you have more than that, you can check those prices in increments however much you want. The same thing goes for silverware and jewelry. If you have any silver or any paintings or any special items, there's caps, there's limits to those, because they know that the value on those is exponential. If you have a Van Gogh painting hanging on your wall, a couple $100,000 or whatever the cost of that thing is, they're not just going to insure it unless you've endorsed it. Collectible cards, all sorts of things that you have that have additional value, those need to be endorsed. Now, I actually kind of cheated and gave you the answer on coverage C and talked about replacement cost. That's actually an endorsement. If you're interested in watching that one, go back to coverage C where we talk about personal property. One of the tips that I'm going to give you is that you don't necessarily have to nitpick every little piece of your policy. There are a few, very few companies out there that will let you do the a la carte beyond belief. It's just pick this, pick this, pick this. It's a headache. Your agent hates doing it. You hate doing it. It's a pain. What companies have started to do is they create these packages, and they're like platinum or super gold or A+ or maximum, whatever they're calling it, boost programs. They're adding additional endorsements combined at a lower cost to you, and so you can purchase usually 3 levels of policies. When you're talking with your agent or your specific company, find out what package offerings that they give you. The biggest piece that you have to be careful with is, even though those packages give you higher limits, make sure you understand what the per item limit is as well. The most common endorsement that you have is water backup. It's not typically covered on a policy, so you have to add that in addition. Whenever I'm quoting someone, I always add at least 5,000 water backup. I recommend 10,000 or more because most claims are higher than that. In most situations, people don't see the value in that unless they've had it happen to them, where water was trying to leave the house. If you have a sump pump, a pipe, anything that happens and it backs up in your home. If you've ever seen a toilet bubble, that's a good indication that there's a hole, there's an air gap somewhere in the lines, and there's a good chance that something bad's gonna happen. In that scenario, you need to have additional water backup. They also call it sump pump and water backup with contents. Some companies do that and some companies don't. You need to figure that out. If it's not with contents, that means they're gonna fix the carpet, they're gonna dry everything out, they're gonna replace the walls if they got water damage beyond fixing and repair, but they're not gonna cover your couch. They're not gonna cover your personal belongings. So make sure that when you're doing the water backup, it includes contents with it. Once you get into the higher level homes where you're 750,000 or more, these endorsements take a little bit of a turn. They have these ultra endorsements that they offer. And one of the cool parts about that one is if you get into those endorsements, they allow you a cashback option. That way, if you don't want to rebuild your house or if you don't want it to be the same, they'll just pay you the amount that they think that the value of your home was. And you can choose whether you want that or not versus having them repair or rebuild your home. They typically also come with at least $25,000 worth of water backup because they know that the repair on that is going to be a lot more expensive. The limits are all raised, cash on hand coverage is raised, identity theft coverage is typically added in there, and there's just a whole slew of things that they have. They're normally going to require that you have an alarm system, and that's going to be covered in the endorsements as well. So there's hundreds of endorsements that you can add on to your policy. Don't get lost or confused. The ones that we just talked about are the main primary ones that you want to focus on. The other portions, and the easiest way to determine if you need to debate that, is if you have any item that is $1,500 or more, it might make sense to talk to the agent if it needs to be added as an endorsement or if it's covered under the A, B, or C, D, E, or F, any of those coverages that we went over. The parts that we didn't go over is adding vehicles. So we're going to go over endorsements for boats and different ATVs and off-road vehicles and all sorts of things, golf carts and all of that in this next video. Go ahead and click it now and we'll go through that. It's over there. Yeah, click it. Thanks.